Hey guys, Ramsey here. Welcome to another video. Tonight we have a quick hit video or a late night insight. It's actually our first comparison quick hit video, believe it or not. And the reason it's a comparison video is I have two bottles of Noir pieces right here, and one of them is going back. Can you guess which one it is? So first of all, I have to make an apology, or a correction if you will. You know, it takes a big man to stand up and say they were wrong, and I'm going to be that big man today. I'm going to stand up and say I was wrong. I did a Frederic Malle top countdown or whatever, you know, family portrait, ranked family portrait recently, and I said something at the outset that somebody actually immediately challenged me on, and I got to thinking about it, and I thought, you know what, they're right and I was wrong. And I said that Frederic Malle is one of those houses that is a house that you don't have to worry about reformulation on. You can just go buy the modern stuff. And normally, you know me, I'm usually all about the vintage. And so, honestly, I was maybe a little bit ignorant of the vintage Frederic Malles. It took some eye-opening over the last couple months, but I've come around. And I realized that, yes, the Estee Lauder bean counters have been going in there and tweaking some of these formulas. And the one that really got me, the one that really made me open my eyes is this Noir piece by Michel Rudnitska. Look at that guy. He looks pretty darn cool there, I'll tell you that. But he created this, and this was actually part of the original Frederic Malle release, the original batch of Frederic Malles that came out in the year 2000. This was right there along with his father's work, Le Parfum de Thérèse. And so if you take a look at the new Frederic Malle packaging, you'll notice something. You'll notice it says EDP France Holdings SAS. EDP France Holdings. And that EDP France Holdings is also on, the 100 ml is the modern, by the way. The 50 ml is the vintage. And so what I'm doing is I am sending this back to Mudasir, and I'm keeping this. And I'm going to keep the vintage. It's not that the modern is a necessarily bad fragrance in and of itself. I've got the vintage here, and I've got the modern here, and it's been brewing for about an hour, hour and a half, give or take. And I've done this scenario before because I actually have two 10 ml Discovery atomizers that are vintage. And so I've done this comparison before I decided to splurge on a vintage 50 ml bottle. Okay. And so if you take a look at the back of the modern 100 ml Noir piece bottle, that's what you see. EDP France Holdings. That is the holding company that Estee Lauder set up when they purchased Editions de Parfum Frederic Malle. And this is what the version before Estee Lauder purchasing Editions de Parfum Frederic Malle looked like. See the difference? No EDP France Holdings. Okay, let me show you again. EDP France Holdings right there at the top. And this is what the back of the pre-Estee Lauder bottle looks like. This is what you want, in my opinion. Now, you can see this is not a matte cap. Everyone says, oh, the way to tell the Frederic Malle is by the matte cap. And I do have a matte cap. I actually have two, but one of them's missing the cap. But it would be a matte cap. But I have a matte cap Musc Ravageur, which I absolutely adore. I adore the matte cap Musc Ravageur. But I've found out that while the matte cap is cool and all, and it looks good, it's easy to distinguish the older versions using the matte cap. The matte cap basically isn't this shiny, newer cap. It's matte black, and it says Editions de Parfum around the outside of the top of the cap, embossed into the bottle or into the cap. And while that's cool and all, just having the pre-Estee Lauder is good enough for me. That's all that really matters, because that's where I feel the biggest reformulation came. And so I'm kind of correcting some of my previous ill statements, and I apologize for leading you guys astray and saying just go buy any old Frederic Malle, because I think I'm going to take that little piece of advice back and put it back in my pocket and pretend it never happened, because I am going for these older Malles. I've been collecting a bunch of them lately. I just got Bois d'Orage, in the same haul with this, and I'm probably going to get Dante Bra as well. Moodasir is looking for a bottle for me of Dante Bra, and I still want Vetiver Extraordinaire, a vintage pre-Estee Lauder Vetiver Extraordinaire. So there's some hunting of vintage malls going on, let's say, in the Ram household. And let me tell you kind of the comparison, the way that the fragrances open up to me. So this is a spicy, woody scent. That's the way it would probably be described. It's a spicy, woody scent. It doesn't really fit into any true category because it's oriental without very much vanilla. Most orientals are heavy on the vanilla. You know, many people compare this to opium. Opium has lots of opopanax and myrrh and resins, and this is like a oriental minus the resins and the opopanax and the vanilla and all the stuff that you expect from something like Shalimar or opium or something like that. It's missing those, okay? It's completely missing the heavy vanilla that just makes it this big, booming oriental. But that's what also makes it unique. It sets it apart because it has this airiness to it. It has this lightness to it. It's spicy. It feels like an oriental, but it wears very effervescent, and you know, like it just kind of bounces off of, like it just kind of flies off of you, but it lasts a long time. So I got the Modern. I actually did an unboxing of the Modern probably 2 or 3 months ago. I can't remember exactly when. And as soon as I smelled it, without ever smelling the vintage, I knew something was wrong. Instantly, I regretted my decision because I could tell this is not the fragrance that the people that I know are hyping. This is not the, Noir piece that people like Christo and Eugene loved over the years. This is not the Noir piece that Rich Mitch hails as smelling like a vintage fragrance. And I decided to buy some Discovery atomizers because they wouldn't cost as much as the full bottle. And sure enough, to my I expected there to be some major reformulations, and I think there really was. So here's how these start. So when you first spray the Modern, which is on my left hand, the 100 ml, it opens up to me feeling like there's a hole in the fragrance. So I told you already it's an oriental that really, it is missing a piece, right? It's missing that extra vanilla piece that you would expect to weigh the fragrance down. So you would think it would open up smelling like there's a hole in the fragrance. The Modern opens up that way. It opens up your nose almost like seeks it out like a bloodhound. Like there's a hole in this fragrance. Like there's something missing. There's something that should be here and it's not. And you're constantly kind of trying to search for what that is. What is off balance here, right? That's the way that my nose perceived the Modern. The vintage, however, actually opens up smelling like a vintage perfume. There is no hole for your nose to, it's almost like your tooth going to a cavity. You know, like let's say you have a cavity. You ever had a cavity in your tooth and it hurts when you put your tongue on it, and yet you can't stop doing it? Like your tongue has to keep going back on that cavity. Like it's just like it's human nature to just continue to play with it with your tongue. That's what the hole in the Modern smells like to me. Like it's there, it's wrong, and it hurts, and yet you keep kind of going back and trying to dissect that hole in the fragrance. What is it? What is, and it's not an enjoyable experience either. But the vintage actually does open up with this beautiful orange, geranium, rose, and the spices. The spices are the star of the show. And in the spices, in the vintage, the spices really feel like they are part of an amazing spice blend. Actually, maybe one of the best out and out spice fragrances I've ever smelled. Like if you just made a fragrance list of the best spiced fragrances of all time, this would have to be on that list, the vintage. It feels so rich and full, and I'm not saying there's no vanilla in it, okay? Because there's definitely vanilla in this composition. There's no doubt about it. I think there's vanilla probably in both. I think they tried to fill in that gap, using a little bit of vanilla to try to make it a little bit more palatable to the general public, right? God, the vintage is so good. And the modern has this, what stands out is the spices in the modern as well. The spice stands out in both. But the difference is that in the modern, the spices feel like they're standing alone. Okay? So there's no supporting cast. There's no band of brothers. There's no legion standing by their side. There's no armies. There's no friends. It's just the spices are just alone in that hole. You know, that emptiness I was describing. The spices are there all alone. Whereas with the vintage, or the pre-Estee Lauder bottle version, let's say, and I don't know what it is. I'm not a perfumer. I don't know what it is. I'm just giving you my opinion. But I don't know if it's the sandalwood or cedarwood combination that's better. I don't know if when I smell the vintage, it feels like I'm smelling the best nutmeg fragrance ever of all time. That's what it feels like to me. The nutmeg is just front and center, and it's beautiful. It's properly supported. It is it has its band of brothers there with it. You do get clove, you do get pepper, and you do get cinnamon, but the nutmeg is the star of the show. And I've often said nutmeg kind of puts a bow on everything. It keeps everything in its boundaries. It neatly ties everything together, right? Whereas with the modern post Estee Lauder version, the modern has a prominent nutmeg note as well, but there's also this unpleasant, metallic-y, milky, zingy. There's something unpleasant there as well. So remember how I said there's that hole in the fragrance, and it just seems like something is missing? As that hole begins to get filled by the spices, along comes this unpleasantness. And Rich Mitch called it a aquatic, watery vibe. And at first I didn't really understand what he meant. But the more I have, kind of just explored this, and I've never even given it a full wear. I've only worn it to bed a couple times. I'm going to send this bottle back. I mean, literally, there is nothing but a couple sprays missing from this 100 ml bottle. That's all it took. I mean, it did not take me long to go, nope, that is not for me. And the old me probably would have just kept this as a reference. Now I'm going, why? What's the point? When you have all of these fragrances, why keep something that you don't love, right? So I'm going to send it back. And I don't know if it's this watery vibe, if it's this zingy vibe, if it's this metallic. I don't know what it is, but there's something when I smell the spices in the modern, it almost like puts me off, like it's unpleasant. Whereas when I smell the vintage, it smells so beautifully blended, everything in its place. It feels like you're smelling a vintage fragrance. It really feels like you're smelling something from the 1970s. Honestly, it doesn't smell like opium to me, but it feels like you're smelling something that would have competed with opium. It feels like you're smelling something that, is an offspring of opium or cinnabar or something like that. It's an offspring. It's the next evolution. And in the vintage, you get this sandalwood, vetiver, and patchouli base, and so they've managed to create this fragrance that has this beautiful light spiciness, this airiness to it, although it is an oriental, and it does have a little vanilla, even though there's no vanilla listed in the note tree. Don't let them fool you with that. There's definitely vanilla in here. But it's very, very intelligently dosed, and you can really, when you smell the vintage, when you smell the pre-Estee Lauder version, you can really appreciate the spices. I mean, I would put this on a pedestal as one of the best spiced fragrances ever, of all time. Whereas the modern it's like I'm constantly trying to figure out what's wrong. You know, it's like my tongue is constantly going to that cavity in my tooth, going, you know, can I just fix it by rubbing my tongue against it? You know, is there some way for is there some way for me to, you know, fix what is missing here? And your nose is like almost trying to dissect the scent. And I don't know what it is. I honestly have no clue what they did. I don't know what they changed. I don't know what they dosed a little heavier or dosed a little bit lighter, maybe to save a little bit. I have no clue. Maybe they wanted to make it a little bit more appealing somehow, but they ended up making it less appealing. I don't know what in the world happened with this reformulation, but I can tell you that as far as this fragrance goes, this was like a bridge for me, because it was the time that I finally crossed that. I crossed over and I said, you know what? There is an issue with Frederic Malle and reformulation. Before, I was kind of blind. I was like, no, not Frederic Malle. No way. No, I mean, his stuff has to be it's Frederic Malle. I mean, come on. Like, he can't be caught up doing the same stuff Creed is doing, right? And unfortunately, I wouldn't put him in the same camp as Creed, but I would say that if you can find these older bottles, and they are still out there, that look like this. I probably shouldn't be showing you this, because I still have some I want to hunt myself, but I have this inability to keep stuff from you guys. You know, I have this need to share, and so this is me sharing. Look for these. Look for these bottles that look like this. Don't get the current EDP France Holdings. Don't buy these, because this is going back. This is going to go back, and I'm gonna continue my hunt for these, and you're gonna see a comparison video coming up very soon on the Bois d'Orage vintage versus modern as well. French Lover, Bois d'Orage, same thing. And so there's gonna be some good comparison videos coming up. But if you have experience with Noir pieces, I would love to hear your thoughts. If you agree or disagree with my whole reformulation, you know, shtick, let me know. I definitely think these have been changed. This was the one that really opened my eyes to it. There's a huge difference between these two. You can tell they're still the same fragrance, but this is full and rich, and Rich Mitch hit the nail on the head, as he usually does. This smells like a vintage fragrance, and this smells like a bad reformulation. I mean, I don't know what it is about. I don't know what they did. I wish I knew what they did. I wish I knew what the true essence of going from this to this turned into. You know what I mean? So that's my take. That's how I'm going to approach the House of Frederic Malle going forward. Again, apologies for giving you bad advice. Not something I want to do on Channel Ram. I feel like I let you down on that one, so I have to come in here and make it right. So thanks for watching, everybody. I'd love to hear your feedback in the comments. If you have experience with the House of Frederic Malle or these reformulation issues, you know, do let me know. Let me know what your thoughts are. And hopefully I'll be back tomorrow with another video. Good night, everyone. Cheers, guys.